The first rays of light easily shot through the musty blinds of his room, stirring Jack from his dreams. Taking a few seconds to moan and groan, he quickly mustered the discipline to roll out of bed and begin stretching, his limbs giving a few satisfying pops before he hit the deck and did his push-ups. It was his morning ritual ever since he arrived, since he knew if he didn't get fit, he was dead. Initially, it hurt to do, and he wasn't that good at them despite the lower gravity. His chest and stomach hurt like hell the first few days, though it eventually went away the more he did it. He stopped at 73, a new record for the total he could do in one sitting. It wasn't anywhere close to the 100 plus his older brother could do, but it was much better than the 11 he started off with. He then turned onto his back to do as many sit-ups as he could, before his stomach wouldn't let him do any more, before jumping up to do squats, hoping he hadn't messed up the form again. His body was always sore after his morning routine, but ever since he had arrived he had constantly pushed himself to do better, and he wasn't done yet. Woken up by the activity, Jack quietly crept downstairs. He had no real way of telling the time, but the fact that nobody else seemed to be up and about led Jack to assume he had time to do the rest of his workout. Either that or the girls had gone to school without him. His prior internet research into fitness advice back on Earth often felt as if each article was specifically contradictory to one another. However, maintaining a good warm-up routine, pushing the limits gradually, and eating well seemed to be the points the articles could all agree on, so he kept that up as best as he could. He would have to ask Nika later if she had any weights he could lift, but push-ups and shadowboxing would do for now. Walking out the front door, he surveyed the perimeter of the sector with anticipation. He had started running before his arrival at High Station Basilar, and saw no reason to stop, though doing so at the temple had been a little problematic when he got lost among the corridors. He still loved doing it, though, as it gave him time to be with his own thoughts. Walking to the far wall to work out, he set off at a gentle pace, increasing his speed to a steady jog as he reached the first pillar on the perimeter, not really knowing what was on the other side. Surely it wouldn't be impossible to just climb the thing. He would have to talk to the others about it at some point. Sephi especially seemed to be into urban exploration, and it would be a good opportunity to get to know her better. Yeah, those girls were a wild bunch, especially Sephi. It was quite intimidating for him as an introverted guy, but being around them yesterday evening had gradually made him slightly more comfortable. He did admit to himself that he found them all pretty attractive in their own way, but that did raise the question in Jack's mind. Should he go there? Sephi and Nika seemed to be hinting at their interest a lot, but they could just be joking around with him. Jack had seen friends of his burned by girls in his class that did exactly that. What would even be the implications of getting close to an alien girl? He just didn't know. I'll just have to see what happens and go with the flow, Jack whispered to himself. What do you mean? A panting voice came from behind. Jack nearly shat himself as his head shot back to see Nika jogging up beside him, using her tail to push herself forward until she was right next to him. Morning, Nika, Jack greeted, a touch louder than strictly necessary. Suddenly he hoped she dropped the awkward question. Hey, she grinned. Didn't know you were an early riser like me. You could have come to my room. Jack started, before he realized what she meant. Yeah, I didn't want to wake you, though I wouldn't mind using the punching bag at some point. That's fine. I'm always awake around this time. You don't have a comlink yet, right? I think Sephi's going to fix up one of her spares for you if she wakes up in time. I was going to ask, how long do we have? I figured I must have woken up earlier than everyone else, or much later, and you guys headed on without me. Nika looked almost incredulous when Jack thought they may have left him behind, but decided not to comment on it just yet. About 1.5 local hours until we go. Enough time to finish up here, get ready, and poke anyone sleeping through their alarm. We usually leave early just in case so we can take the scenic route if it's quiet. Sure, Jack nodded, as he started to pick up his pace, noting that Nika was ahead ever so slightly. Oh no you don't, the Kizan laughed, as she dashed forward using her tail as the human bolted after her. Curiously though, Jack was able to keep up, so Nika gave it her all as they raced around the sector. Jack's muscles were burning, but he could keep up with Nika. He had noticed when he first arrived that he seemed fitter than usual after he arrived. The chaos he had left in his wake before the Palanders had found him was proof of that. Apparently, standard gravity here was much lighter than he was used to on Earth, though he wouldn't float off if he jumped too high. The two didn't speak as they dashed another lap, Nika with a look of determination, as she used all four limbs to try to gallop ahead, using her tail to swing around poles and push herself over ahead. "One more lap decides it," Nika grinned as she increased her lead, sure of her victory. Jack felt the rush of adrenaline as his brisk run turned into a full-on sprint. Nika's eyes went wide as the human caught up to her with hard, sharp breaths, slowly getting a lead as the Kizan gave everything she had to close the gap between them. Her muscles screamed as she felt her body hurt from the exertion, and almost gasped in relief as they both crossed the finishing line. "Ha!" she finally panted, as she leant against the house wall. "Not bad, Jack, but I won that one." "No, you didn't." Nika looked up to see Chio sitting cross-legged in the air, who was smiling at Jack, giving him a soft clap. "Maybe next time," Jack breathed heavily, as he started to cool down from the exercise. "You didn't want to join us for a run, Chio?" he asked the psychic. Chio just smiled again and shook her head. "Well, I think we'll leave our sparring practice for today," Nika panted, trying her best to keep a confident smile. "You look tired, Jack. We should hit the showers." She turned and walked to her bathroom without sticking around, only collapsing in a heap on the ground once she locked the door and was sure nobody could hear. How in the name of the Pantheon was he able to keep up with her? Nika had been training in athletics and martial arts since she was young, was proud of what she could do, having few rivals that could match her, but she had never been pushed this hard before and would need to train better. As Nika ran the water for a bath, she felt a sensation in the back of her mind. Recognizing what it was, she tried to clear her mind until it stopped. Nika was always aware of her usual heat cycle, but was able to use a combination of meditation and pills to calm her down, usually easy enough to do without the presence of eligible males. However, sometimes Kizans, and indeed many other species, experience a sudden heat trigger, a more intense sensation that came about in obvious circumstances. Nika reminded herself to buy more pills for it when she could, but it was probably a good idea to talk to Allura about it too at some point, before it became a problem. "You worry too much." Chio's written message did little to comfort Jack, who had quickly showered and joined her in the living room, downing some scrambled eggs of questionable origin in the process. She was finding it a little difficult to communicate with him when he was pacing around. "Sorry," Jack stopped, slumping back onto the sofa next to her. "The whole alien high school with regular shootings thing is still pretty new to me, and I'm not even American." "You just need time to get used to it. It's not as bad as you make out." Chio had no idea what an American was, but that was beside the point. "Get used to what? Getting shot?" Jack asked with a raised eyebrow. "Not unless you blast them first." Seffi vaulted the sofa to sit next to Jack, not so subtly throwing her arm over him with a wink. "Works every time." Despite himself, Jack laughed at the ridiculousness of that, even as Chio gave the scritter an exasperated look. "Seriously, it's not that bad," she continued with a confident smile at Jack. "Besides, you'll be with one of us most of the day, and we can show you the ropes." "Fair enough," Jack conceded. He was still worried, but felt a little better. The rational part of his mind told him that if the girls could get by, so could he. He just needed to man up, keep his head screwed on, and stay strong. "Oh yeah, I got you a present," Seffi gleefully added, showing Jack a thin, wiry device which he then helped fit on his head. The material then disappeared, and a HUD appeared in Jack's vision. "What's this?" Jack asked curiously. He had heard of Google Glass and other augmented reality concepts before, but this was in a league of its own. "Comlink," Seffi replied, a little confused. She thought everyone knew what a comlink was. "Visual overlay and voice communication. Works primarily by thought. We can work on apps later. I've saved it to mine, so you don't need to worry about masking it. Added my com code to the main display so you can shoot me a message anytime you like." "You should test it out and send me a message," Chio typed to Jack, while in her mind asked Seffi to send Jack's details over to the rest of them. It took a little while for the comlink to calibrate for Jack's use, but he managed to send a quick "hi" text after a few minutes, Chio's pocket device buzzing in response. "I'm hurt, Chio. You didn't think I calibrated it properly?" Seffi asked in mock indignation. "Did I think you would accidentally add the wrong numbers to get prime access to the cute human boy?" Chio gave a coy smile to the scritter as she telepathically spoke to her, Jack completely unaware. "After what you were up to last night, I wouldn't put it past you." Seffi's eyes widened in embarrassed shock as Jack looked at her in confusion, not knowing what was going on. "Time for you to have a cold shower?" Chio asked Seffi, keeping up the attack. Seffi smiled at Jack. "Sorry, Chio's been a little mean. I didn't mean to interrupt your alone time. I need a shower anyway." She gave a knowing look at Chio, who for her part had raised eyebrows and her "you're getting yeeted" expression. Seffi continued, as Jack was trying not to laugh at the banter between the two. "Don't worry, Jack. Chio gets a little grumpy in the mornings, but that's it." Seffi was interrupted as she was flung backwards off the sofa towards the showers, as Jack laughed, quickly joined by the silent giggles of Chio. "I can sense Alora's awake too. Once we're all ready, we'll go. May I work on attuning with your mind in the meantime?" Chio had an almost pleading look as she showed Jack the message. "Of course you can. Do I need to do anything?" "Try to relax your mind and close your eyes. Don't be afraid of any strange sensations. I will do my best to make it as comfortable as possible for you." Chio floated down and snuggled up close to Jack, taking both of his hands in hers. Jack just assumed it was necessary and went along with it, leaning back into the soft sofa and closing his eyes. He had tried meditation before and started with that, suddenly closing off outside sensations, leaving himself alone with his thoughts until he was no longer alone. It was hard to describe for Jack. One moment he was listening to the random thoughts passing through his mind. The next it was like he just noticed the strange amount of yellow grass beneath his feet. Then the purple sky. And then Chio stood staring at him wide-eyed. Jack took a few seconds to look around and looked down. The moment he realized he wasn't wearing any clothes, they appeared on him before he could even think to cover himself. Dark jeans and a black hoodie, his usual attire from Earth. "Whoops." Jack laughed it off as Chio seemed to snap out of her funk. "Sorry." "That's all right. Wait, you're talking to me now?" Jack barely noticed it, but her voice was light and almost song-like in his mind. "We are in the deepest subconscious of our minds. Words, emotions, sensations, all of it blurs and merges here. In our ancient past, we believe he used this place to map the thoughts of other species in order to communicate. While I talk with you, the rest of my focus is on discovering your mindscape and bridging a psychic link between us. Once that is done, it'll be worked and deciphered by my people as a collective." "Not sure if I completely understand. Basically, you copy my thoughts to your psychic hive mind and they help you discover it?" Jack asked, trying to be as respectful as he could with his blunt question, though quite disturbed at the thought of his mind being scanned by the psychic girl. "Yes. Your thoughts and secrets won't be shared. I will do my best to make sure of that. Just your sensations and associations. I shall need to do this a few more times, but it's good we've made a start now." Chio paused for a moment, as a look of genuine concern came across her face. "I read your aura the moment I saw you. I've never seen so much sadness and grief in a person before, yet you seem calm and normal. What in the name of the gods happened to you?" Jack's face fell. He still had nightmares of his first emergence in this galaxy, yet he knew he couldn't avoid the details for long. He had trusted Chio thus far. He could tell her the details. "There isn't much to say. I don't belong here, and I don't know how I came to be here. No magical portal, no mysterious voice, no truck running me over. I fell asleep one night in my room and woke up stark naked in the middle of a district one of the priests called the Pallid Pit, fighting for my life." Chio's eyes widened at that. The Pallid Pit was home to the Ravagers, some of the worst scum known to this part of the station that worshipped the Destroyer. She remembered hearing something about a massive fight over there that left many dead. Was that Jack's doing? She would have to check the datanet. "I'm still surprised the Church of Astara didn't strike me down when they found me caked in blood and gore, but apparently they were there for me. High Priestess Cornelia received some kind of message from her god, and they took it seriously, so lucky me. So yeah, I'm pretty sad. I miss my life, I miss my family, but as a lone guy in a dangerous galaxy, I have to stay strong and work with my situation as best I can." "I'm so sorry, Jack. I didn't know." "It's okay. Don't worry about it." "But you're wrong about one thing." "What's that?" Chio put her arm on Jack's shoulder, as she could feel the presence of the others outside their minds. "You're not alone." And with that, Jack felt his conscious mind being yanked, until he opened his eyes to see the others. "Chio, you hussy! What are you doing with Jack?" Nika grinned, as Alora giggled next to her. Jack had no idea what Chio's reply was to the pair of them, as the expressions on their face became more serious. He would probably have to do this again until Chio could talk to him normally. It wasn't really fair otherwise, and despite the lack of communication, he did like her. He was already through most of the large book she gave him, Modern Society and How to Persevere, which was a primer on how many species, through magic and divine intervention, managed to come together. Unfortunately, the sheer diversity and lack of a common purpose fragmented them, until stable anarchy became the norm. He got to the chapter on leading and influential factions that kept the peace, without having the monopoly of power to lead, but he had gotten too tired by then and went to bed. "Well, we're ready and freshened up," Allura said. "Shall we go?" The route they took to get to school was slightly different than the one before, which gave Jack time to buy some casual clothes that suited his preferred look, rather than the ones lent to him by the Temple of Hope. He was getting low on cash, but he'd cross that bridge when he got there. The districts were ever-shifting and strange. One even looked to be the site of a recent battle, which according to Laura apparently was. Gangs were always looking to claim more territory, and sure enough, Jack was bombarded with recruiters looking to sign him up for their gang or militia. He politely declined, saying he would consider their offer, as the girls did their best to drag him along. Certainly if he was running out of money, he would need to get more somehow. He would definitely need an extensive tour of the area at some point, probably over the weekend. Sephi excitedly pointed out the Cineplex and the Entertainment District, but decried the lack of funds, subtly hinting that the prefect's lockup would be a great place to liberate items confiscated over millennia and just left there. Allura and the others denounced it, but Jack would be lying if he wasn't tempted. Before long, they found themselves before the Great Pyramids of Hive Station Basilisk School. Jack could see many strange creatures filing in, like the gargantuan giants that towered over all of them, to various bird people flying above to the highest levels. As he took all of this in, all of his fears and worries about his first day at school were pushed to one side, as a smile began to form. This would be interesting.